Wearing the same hat now but with a different function, let me introduce our guest speaker for today, Safra Catz, who is a Wharton alum from 1983 and a Penn Law School alum from 1986. As I think all of you know, she's CEO of the Oracle Corporation, where she previously served as president and CFO and has been at Oracle for almost 20 years. She must have been a baby then. She recently joined the Disney Board of Directors, and she's a former board member of HSBC. She's incredibly active in public policy as it affects business, and I'm sure if you read the press, you know that Safra's name has been connected with almost every big job in Washington in the last 18 months, so we're very fortunate to have her with us here today. But I want to thank her publicly for an incredible thing she did for the Wharton School just a few months ago. Being CEO of Oracle is a rather big job, but Safra took 4 hours of her own life to help educate 40 undergraduates from the Wharton School, and I have to say me, in what's really going on in Silicon Valley. Safra hosted our students at Oracle just down the road a little bit from here, and she made us listen to a lecture. The lecture was on blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And I can tell you that it transformed the way that I think about it. In fact, I now view the world of fintech as the ultimate opportunity of a fusion of West Coast thinking and East Coast thinking when it comes to the future of the economy. And Safra served that to me and to our students, so I couldn't be more thankful to her for that, and it's my real pleasure to welcome her to the podium now.
Thank you, Dean Garrett. It is always great to be with Wharton graduates. I absolutely loved Wharton and can tell you I would not be here without it. And I must also admit that I never thought, even after Wharton and law school, that I would be in front of all of you giving you encouragement and advice one day. When Dean Garrett asked me to speak here, I was very, very honored, and I hope he doesn't regret it when I'm done. So I'm actually going to use the next 15 minutes to try to give you advice that may come in handy when you go on in your careers. I'm not actually going to talk about blockchain or AI or cryptocurrencies because I think some of you have learned a lot about that and some of you will, but I want you to have advice that will help you in whatever jobs you pick. And I think most of that I learned either when I was on Wall Street for almost 14 years or my nearly 20 years at Oracle. And I probably should just, for those of you who don't know us, we're a cloud and software company. One of my employees is in your group. I don't know where you are. Where are you, Kishan? Oh, yeah. There you go. And we've got about another 140,000 folks like Kishan, who I'm incredibly proud of around the world. We do about $40 billion in revenues, about $14 billion in free cash flow, and we operate in every single country that a U.S. company can operate in, and I can tell you some are a lot more pleasant than others. Now, the real difference and the real importance, and what I've probably learned most from, is the fact that we are one of a few Fortune 500 companies run by our founder, Larry Ellison. And I will tell you, as a manager, that there's a big difference between founders and managers. And Larry Ellison, Oracle's chairman and CTO, still believes that at a $200 billion market cap, we are still all entrepreneurs. And someone once asked me, how is it to work with Larry Ellison since he always thinks out of the box? And what I tried to explain to them is that Larry doesn't even see the box. And that is what makes him a leader, not a follower. And that's what makes it just so fun to manage with him and to sit alongside him on the board. But I'm going to walk you down a little memory lane because then you'll understand the advice that I give you. I joined in 1999, and that was the height of the internet bubble. And along with Sun and EMC and, who was it, Cisco, we were one of the 4 horsemen of the internet. And all we had to do in the morning was wake up and the stock would go up. And if we made good decisions, the stock would go up. And if we made bad decisions, the stock would go up. And if we made no decisions at all, the stock would go up. Now, somehow, we doubted that that was going to last forever. And so we actually went ahead and took advantage of the good times to get our house in order for the inevitable bad times. And I will tell you, as you can imagine, that they ultimately came because we wanted, during the good times, to set up Oracle for periods of growth later. And the Oracle I found in 1999 was sub-optimized. By that, I mean we didn't operate like a single company. We just operated like dozens and dozens of companies around the world. There was absolutely no incentive to work together. There was no incentive to grow scale. In fact, it was a disincentive because managers would lose turf and political power and possibly even compensation. Well, we went through that transformation and simplified everything about our business. And we standardized as much as we could. And we started to incent our employees to work together like a single company. And let me tell you, none of this was fun and wasn't that fashionable. Everything was just too great. You know, the hardest thing one of my salesmen would have to do in the morning was walk through the door and not get knocked out by a bag of money flying into the building. And yet, you know, we still decided that it was time to roll up our sleeves and actually simplify it. Simplify everything, act like one company. And let me tell you, this may have not been fashionable, but it wasn't lost on our investors, where our operating margins went from 22% to 34% in 1 year. But inevitably, in 2001, the bubble burst. And because we had used the good times to get cleaned up, we actually weathered it in a way where we got out of it in 2003 with higher headcount in R&D, while all our competitors had to cut R&D. And that set us up for the inevitable consolidation of our industry, and we were the consolidator. And we kicked that off in June 2003 with the unsolicited, some say hostile, but that hurts our feelings, of PeopleSoft. And it basically changed our sector entirely. And in the past 12 years or so, we've spent over $60 billion. We've done over 130 acquisitions, and we've executed 2 hostile takeovers. We beat 2 of our largest rivals in competing bids. We've had the experience, I personally, with Carl Icahn, which I can't really speak about in open session, would be unladylike. And then, and we've navigated the absolutely mind-numbing security laws in India, and we've gotten to go to the Delaware Chancery Court. Yes, that's what it's called. And let me tell you, there was no Starbucks anywhere near that place, and we needed it. Regardless, I feel like I've known every single competition authority head at the European Commission. We had 2 life-threatening moments, and of course the Department of Justice sued us for antitrust. Let me just make sure that you understand, we won every single time, everyone. And now, I thought I would talk to you about what I learned in all of that, because they gave me 15 minutes and I'm probably halfway through it, but I'll tell you some of the advice that I want to give you. And this isn't, and it's really very much what I go back to all the time. So first of all, as a historical matter, there are very few examples where second-place players have leapfrogged to first place. Of course, there are examples where the number one has stumbled, but I don't sit around waiting for that to happen, okay? The thing that's critical is to understand that that number one has so many advantages that you've got to do something different. You cannot chase them and pass them. And in fact, not only should you think out of the box, you need to dispose of that box altogether and think about things as differently as possible. And understand that because you are going against conventional wisdom, you should expect to be criticized by those with a vested interest in the conventional wisdom. And you should just take it as noise. Don't let it change your mind, because understand that you are going to be called an idiot moments before you are called a genius. And if you can spend your time changing the game and not taking it all personally, you've got a much better chance of winning. Now, 2, scale matters. In my business, software cloud, that's a scale business by definition. High fixed costs, much smaller, in some cases, de minimis marginal costs. The more customers you have, the more you spread your fixed costs over the larger base. That leads to more profit for shareholders, lower prices for customers, and more resources to plow back into the business. In our case, R&D. And that's not only true for our industry, it's basically true for all business. Everything you do as a leader should be focused on achieving more and more scale so you have more and more resources to be better and better. 3rd, focus on your core business. One mistake business leaders make is they fail to distinguish between size and scale. You need to be at scale, and you need to be focused on your core business. Buying things like another company that just make you bigger, but don't really either go to the same customers, don't use the same distribution or assets, that's not going to advance the agenda. It may look good for a while, but it's not really going to make you more competitive. Okay, 4th, and this applies almost everywhere, and whether it's a business meeting or a new business model, and I have a very simple rule. You don't have to write it down. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense, okay? Now, I don't want to insult any management consultants in the room, but, business needs to be conducted in English, and I really don't mean English versus French. I mean straightforward, plain, clear language. Things need to make sense. Just because something is said with authority doesn't mean it makes sense. Don't just sit by and not question things that don't make sense. And by the way, don't just sit by at a meeting and passively watch a PowerPoint like a dog watching television, okay? You've got to ask questions. Just because it's in PowerPoint and all the colors match and all that doesn't mean it really makes any sense. Ask questions. All right, 5th, don't stand still. You can't beat the competition by standing still, and you can't be driven by caution all the time. It is extremely easy to be lulled into inaction. We are all facing an increasingly competitive global economy. You can't beat the competition by standing still. Indecision really is your enemy. I am actually baffled by how much time and effort is put into standing still. I call that motion, no progress. There are dozens of reasons not to do something, okay? And the easy things are often hardly worth doing. It's really the tough decisions, the game-changing decisions that generate the most return. That's true in both the smallest and the largest companies. It bears repeating. Some of Oracle's greatest competitive successes have come simultaneously from our willingness to take risk and from our competitors' inability to make decisions. And if you want to beat the competition and you want to advance your career personally, you need to make decisions and take actions. If you make decisions quickly and you make a mistake, you very well may have a chance to fix it. If you wait too long, I tell you, the decision will make itself, and any change will be impossible. 6, even though I say don't stand still, don't necessarily change fashion. If you want to be fashionable, go shopping. Unless you are in the fashion business, businesses are not always fashionable. Execute your business strategy. Do not automatically change your strategy because some industry analyst has coined a new term that everyone is talking about. He may be wrong. And 2, it may not be right for you. Keep an eye on the market. Understand your customers and look at all the new data, but also understand your own strengths and execute on the plan that leverages those. 7th, if you don't ask, you don't get. Now, that's not true only in sales, by the way. You have no idea how many business meetings I have sat through where a bunch of people on the same side of an issue convince themselves that the other side, the answer is going to be no, without ever even asking. You have to ask if you want to get something. The only way you can be certain that the answer is no and getting a negative outcome is by not asking. 8th, and this is going to sound counterintuitive coming from a technology executive, but just because everything can be put online doesn't mean everything should be put online. And I mean that seriously. I am amazed by some of the bad business decisions, bad personal decisions too, frankly, that are made in the name of social media. I mean, make sure that the information we put online makes business sense. It's stunning how many companies take marketing so seriously with message discipline and focus groups, and then permit their executives to engage in a stream of consciousness online for all their customers and competitors to see. And on a related note, and I apologize to anyone who has family in this business, but the press is not your friend, okay? The number of executives who actually believe they have friends in the press always amazes me. The press has a job to do, and promoting your personal or business agenda is not part of their job description. You may get good press while interests are aligned, but you're always one story away from a really bad headline. If you want good PR, try marketing. When you pay for the message, you control the message. Okay. Now, really, the most serious part of this. 9th, let me say a word about integrity. A number of years ago, Oracle was in a very big fight in Sacramento. There was a lot of politics, and a state senator wanted to, maybe make a political point more than anything else. And he asked my colleague, in front of cameras and everything, "Are you stupid or a liar?" Okay, Stupid. Okay, without missing a beat, he said stupid. Of course, that's right. The fact is, you can recover from being stupid, but you can never recover from being a liar. Integrity matters. Don't be afraid to look stupid, but never let your integrity be compromised. Integrity is a perishable asset, and once it's gone for good. Nothing, no shortcut, no money, no fame, nothing is worth losing your integrity. And finally, I think we all need to have a little humility. The truth is, the reason I'm standing at this podium is mostly attributable to luck and some decisions I made when luck smiled on me. Everyone in this room is smart. Everyone, from what I hear, works hard, and everyone is clearly an overachiever. In my view, the difference between those that are successful over the long term are those that are, and those that are not, are those that can look at their own success with a touch of humility. Most of us are just plain lucky. Going to Wharton for me was one of the luckiest breaks ever. And we need to recognize that business is a team sport. Business leaders are only as good as the employees standing behind them, and in my case, it's 140,000 of them, have made it possible for me to be here with you. So really, my advice, you can see, not really rocket science. There really aren't any shortcuts. There aren't really any solutions, but it is a great journey, and have fun. Thank you.